Russia is violating a ceasefire agreement by shelling an evacuation route out of the besieged city of Mariupol, Ukraine says. Key points. Video posted by the Ukrainian state communications agency showed people with bags boarding buses. Video posted by the Ukrainian state communications agency showed people with bags boarding buses. The UN says the Russian invasion has caused 2 million people to flee from Ukraine. The UN says the Russian invasion has caused 2 million people to flee from Ukraine. Previous attempts to lead civilians to safety have crumbled with renewed attacks. Ukrainian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Oleg Nikolenko said on Twitter that the shelling occurred as 8 trucks and 30 buses were preparing to evacuate people from Mariupol to Zaporozhye. Ceasefire violated. Russian forces are now shelling the humanitarian corridor from Zaporozhye to Mariupol, he posted. People in Mariupol have struggled to access water, food and power. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said in a video address on Tuesday that a child of dehydration in Mariupol, in a sign of how desperate the city's population has become. Loading. Previous attempts to lead civilians to safety amid the biggest ground war in Europe since World War II have crumbled with renewed attacks. In the embattled city of Sumy, buses packed with people left for other Ukrainian cities on Tuesday. A video posted by the Ukrainian state communications agency on Tuesday showed people with bags boarding buses. But it was not clear how long the effort would last. The Ukrainian city of Sumy was given a green corridor. The first stage of evacuation began, the agency tweeted. Sumy is just 50 kilometers from the Russian border. Those buses are headed to other cities in Ukraine, but many people have chosen to flee the country instead. Southam Saleh, a spokesperson for the UN's International Organization for Migration, tweeted that 2 million have now fled the country, including at least 100,000 people who are not Ukrainian. With the invasion well into its second week, Russian troops have made significant advances in southern Ukraine, but stalled in some other regions. Ukrainian soldiers and volunteers fortified the capital, Kiev, with hundreds of checkpoints and barricades designed to thwart a takeover. A steady rain of shells and rockets fell on other population centers, including the Kiev suburb of Bucha, where the mayor reported heavy artillery fire. Loading. We can't even gather up the bodies because the shelling from heavy weapons doesn't stop day or night, Mayor Anatol Fedoruk said. Dogs are pulling apart the bodies on the city streets. It's a nightmare. In one of the most desperate cities, the encircled southern port of Mariupol, an estimated 200,000 people, nearly half the population of 430,000, were hoping to flee. Russia's Coordination Center for Humanitarian Efforts in Ukraine and Ukrainian Deputy Prime Minister Irina Vereshchuk both said a ceasefire was agreed to start on Tuesday morning to allow some civilians to evacuate. But it was not clear where all the corridors would lead to, amid disagreement between the two sides. Russia's Coordination Center suggested there would be more than one corridor, but that most would lead to Russia, either directly or through Belarus. At the UN, however, the Russian ambassador suggested corridors from several cities could be opened and people could choose for themselves which direction they would take. Ms. Vereshchuk, meanwhile, only said that the two sides had agreed to an evacuation of civilians from the eastern city of Sumy toward the Ukrainian city of Poltava. Those to be evacuated included foreign students from India and China, she said. She reiterated that proposals to evacuate civilians to Russia and its ally Belarus, which was a launching pad for the invasion, were unacceptable. Later, Ukrainian presidential aide Kyrylo Tymoshenko posted a video of yellow buses with a red cross plastered on the side that he said showed evacuations from Mariupol toward the city of Zaporozhye. He said humanitarian aid was also being sent to Mariupol. Demands for effective passageways have surged amid intensifying shelling by Russian forces. The steady ardments, including in some of Ukraine's most populated regions, have yielded a humanitarian crisis of diminishing food, water and medical supplies. Through it all, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Ukrainian forces were showing unprecedented courage. AP